Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when and where you are. And welcome to another Festival in the Box 3.0 tasting session. This is the Filey Bay IPA finish tasting, which I hope you'll enjoy. Delighted to say that we are joined by Amy Teasdale from the Spirit of Yorkshire Distillery, who's going to talk us through the bottling and everything Spirit of Yorkshire. So let me just bring Amy in. Hi, Amy.
Hi, Eddie.
How's it going?
Yeah, really good, thanks. How about you?
I'm doing very well. I'm always very jealous of the backdrop that you guys have there. It's almost
Yeah.
mock-up distillery. It almost looks like a real distillery,
Doesn't it? It looks like almost everything's super polished, almost as if nothing happens here, right?
Brilliant. I love the distillery, and it's always a great setting for these interviews. But listen, thanks so much for agreeing to come on. I know it's kind of a slight last minute thing for you, so but I'm sure you'll be absolutely great. And besides, the whiskey's good, so what more do you need?
Exactly.
Anyway, Amy, first of all, we will talk about Spirit of Yorkshire once we start tasting the whiskey. But why don't you tell people at home a little bit about yourself and what it is you do at the distillery?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so my title here is UK Brand Ambassador. A lot of what I do basically involves going out and about and really sort of telling people about our whiskey and our story, and basically helping people enjoy the whiskey that we make. And it's always such a fun thing to do, to be able to go out and I mean, I could talk about whiskey all day long, so it's an absolutely fantastic job for me. So yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one to do.
Is that right? It's a good one.
It's a good one, definitely. What's talking about whiskey, tasting whiskey, what's not to love, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, we're very, very lucky to do what we do.
Oh yeah.
Brilliant stuff. And today we're going to be tasting the IPA cask finish, which I
Yep,
have.
that's right.
Yes, I'm going to pour myself some now. I love that sound.
You know what? I think I'll do the same.
Yeah, I think you should.
I agree.
Bottled at 46%. This is one of your newest bottlings, right?
It is, yeah. So this is pretty new. So we actually released this in September. It's a really, really interesting whiskey. It's one of the ones that we were probably the most excited about, honestly. Really, really, really good, whiskey. It's nice to have that collaboration as well with the brewery that we're attached with. So
Absolutely, which we'll discuss a bit more later.
yeah,
But yes,
absolutely.
I can imagine you guys were very excited about this, not just because of the brewery connection, but because you're all avid beer lovers as well, aren't you?
Yes, exactly. It always helps.
So listen, tell me a bit about this bottling and perhaps how it differs to the other whiskies in your range.
Sure. So this one, the major difference of this one really is the amount of steps that have gone into making this whiskey. So we have a signature style here, which is predominantly ex-bourbon sort of flavors, cask maturation. So we get first fill ex-bourbon casks, and they're what we use for our signature style. So this has actually started in those bourbon casks, and then, like I say, in collaboration with the Walltop Brewery there, who are our sister company. This gives it such a much more of a sort of biscuity kind of sort of really lovely hoppy almost tasting whiskey, which is just, it's great. I mean, I love it. It's one of my favorites at the moment, I'm not gonna lie, but like you said, I'm a beer drinker as well,
So
but yeah.
in terms of it's obviously, so the whiskey has spent a certain amount of years in those ex-bourbon American barrels, and then it's moved into casks that previously held the IPA beer. Is that right?
Not quite. So those casks that we emptied, those bourbon casks actually went up to the Walltop brewery, which is about 10 minutes away from the distillery itself. So the distillery is in a little village called Hummerby, which is just outside of Filey. And then, like I said, 10 minutes away is the Walltop Brewery. So actually, once we'd emptied those casks, they were filled with the Scarborough Fair IPA, which the Walltop Brewery do. And again, is a really fantastic IPA. It's not like a tropical, fruity kind of American style IPA. You know, Walltop are famous for doing, you know, traditional English ales. And so those bourbon casks were filled with that IPA and left for 8 months. After that 8 months, they were emptied and bottled a barrel-aged beer called the Barrel Wave, which was really exciting. So not only are you getting a really fantastic whiskey, you've also got some really fantastic beer to drink as well, which is always really good. And then on the same day, those casks then came back down to the distillery and were filled with a really, really, really good tasting batch of whiskey that had been matured in those ex-bourbon casks again, and left for a couple more months, and then this beautiful whiskey came out. So logistically, a little bit more difficult than most of our other releases, but it speaks for itself. You know, it's such a lovely whiskey, and everybody that drinks it, you know, is immediately shocked by how delicious it is. You know, and it's quite exciting as well because, as far as we know, we are, like I said, as far as we know, the only field to bottle IPA finish that, like I said, that we know of, which is really super exciting. It just adds an extra layer of you know, excited feeling about this. So that's what makes it quite special and different from, you know, our other releases.
Yes. So
does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense.
Good.
Yes. There's a little bit more thought and process that goes into the making of this whiskey.
Yes, absolutely.
Which you know, doesn't do it any harm whatsoever. So in terms of the aromas and flavors that we might find in the IPA, what is there anything that leaps out at you from the glass?
Yeah, honestly, this is just super fruity. It kind of has a lot of like appley flavors. There's like, it's very biscuity as well. It's very citrusy as well, which is a lovely one. But when you go in to taste it, there's a lot of grapefruit on the end of this when you go in to taste it, which is really nice. But initially, I get a hit with a lot of fruit and lemon, you know, which is really nice.
Yeah.
What are you met with immediately when you smell it?
I definitely get the grapefruit. I get sort of pink grapefruit, you know, with the sugar sprinkled on it.
Yeah, great.
I've had that for years. It's really very, very. I don't know if you remember opal fruits and the old.
I do. Opal fruit, Starburst, Eddie, Starburst.
Yeah, but it was the strapline for opal fruits made to make your mouth water, which has always stuck with me.
Of course, yes.
When I'm nosing a whiskey, if it makes my mouth water, it's generally a good thing.
I agree.
And this certainly is making my mouth water. Now I'm gonna taste it as well. I think treat myself.
Treat yourself. It's Christmas, right?
Gonna taste it at full strength, so 46%.
Yep, 46%. Yeah, that's our standard bottling strength.
It's interesting that there's a lovely kind of sort of almost like brown sugar.
Yeah. It's kind of almost like American cream soda-ish, isn't it? You know, it's kind of got that kind of like creaminess and biscuity. Like I say, I love this one. You know, it's yeah, I could drink it.
Is it like a hobnob with brown sugar sprinkled over the top of it?
It could be. Yeah, it could be, definitely. It's almost like yeah, it's definitely got that sort of maltiness, hasn't it? You know, that sort of hobnobby kind of like biscuitiness, which is great. I mean, the whole thing, you know, that grapefruit at the end does it kind of it's almost like you've had a glass of beer, which I think I really, you know, personally, that's what I get from this. I think it's really quite nice. It's very different to, like I say, any of the other releases that we've done, you know, but like I said, that kind of signature style of that sort of bourbon isn't really hidden, which is really lovely. You know, you still get that sort of familiariness, you know. Is that a word?
It'll do.
It'll do. It'll do.
Actually,
But yeah.
it's interesting when you taste it without water, you lose, I think, some of the fruity characteristic that you get on the nose. But then when
Yeah.
you add water to it, it seems to enhance the fruitiness, and you get it back on the palate. So
Yeah.
I think it's nice. It's nice. It's actually nice with or without water. But
Yeah, I
I
agree.
reckon if I had to choose, because I really like the fruitiness about it, maybe a few drops of water just to really bring that fruit out.
Yeah, absolutely. I prefer it without, man. Honestly, that's the way I drink it. I like it just as is. Nice at room temperature. That's the
Now
way I like to drink
started
this.
without wood.
Exactly. So yeah, so like I say, we were very excited for this one, and since then, we've taken it to a lot of the shows that you'll know that there's some of the shows that you guys have put on, and everybody really loves it. It's definitely one of the ones that people want to talk about more often, I think, which is really lovely, and it's nice that extra effort, has given something, such a lovely drink,
Yeah, yeah. Totally agree. Now, listen, while we continue to enjoy that and the folks at home continue to enjoy it and enjoy the view of the distillery behind you and around you, could you maybe tell us a bit about the history of the distillery? Obviously, it's quite a young distillery, but it's not the youngest by any stretch of the imagination these days. And a bit of a background as to, how it came to be, because it's a fascinating story.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. So we actually started in 2016. So we started distilling in the 2016, and then in 2017 we actually opened up to the public. So we ran tours around our fabulous distillery that you see here, and we had the coffee shop as well. So part of our ethos here is actually that we have the the field to bottle process. So we have a farm attached to us. So we are part of the Walltop Brewery. So the two co-founders, David Thompson and Tom Mellor of Walltop Brewery, are very good friends. Now, Tom Mellor is a founder of the Walltop Brewery, which I've mentioned a few times now. And like I said, their farm is 10 minutes away. They started making beer in 2003, which is really, they've got a really fantastic knowledge base about making the beer. And then again, like I say, in 2016, that's like a diversification of making turning what you do, making a fantastic beer and making it into whiskey. Whiskey stripped right back is just distilled beer. And so they kind of got together and decided that actually, why we're in such a perfect area to make really fantastic whiskey. The area we've got around here is perfect for growing the barley that we need to make a whiskey. And I mean, to be honest, up until we started making whiskey, a lot of it was sent up for Scotland for them to make, and it just kind of seemed apt really for us to diversify and start making a whiskey. So now, part of making a whiskey, it's quite a long process. You don't just wake up one morning and decide you're gonna make a whiskey or build a distillery. So there was lots of planning involved within the first stages of making the distillery. But like I said, 2016, these lovely stills actually were delivered overnight. So everything was done real top secret. There was no press releases or anything. Installed, and then away in 2016 started making a whiskey. So the fact that we grow all our barley and have our own water source as well, which is quite important. The farm doesn't actually have mains water, so we've got 2 boreholes up there, and we use the water and the barley. Everything's fully traceable within our whiskey. It gives us control to make something that tastes really good. Ultimately we set out to make a really fantastic tasting whiskey. We wanted to make the best we could, and so having that control aspect really helps within that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Great stuff.
so
And
yeah.
you guys had some involvement with Jim Swan as well before he sadly passed
Yeah,
away.
that's right. Yeah. So he actually helped with the design process of the still house. When you're making a whiskey, you kind of need to know where you want to end up and work backwards, because every little thing, it's so nuanced. Every little thing can affect how your whiskey will taste. Including, the line arms, the directions, and everything. It kind of all affects how it will taste. So you need to know where you want to end up and work
Yes.
backwards.
Yeah.
So yeah, he helped us. We're very lucky in that respect. He's a well-known figure, as you know, in within the whiskey world, and unfortunately, he didn't quite get to see us open, which was kind of sad. He unfortunately passed away just before we opened to the public. But hopefully, the whiskey says everything you need to know. He was very intelligent, knew exactly what he was doing.
Yeah. Well, your distillery and actually a number of the distilleries appearing on these tasting sessions are among his legacy.
Absolutely.
So I'm sure he would be very proud to have you guys as part of that. What was I going to ask you something there? That's completely gone.
Sorry, is that my fault?
No, I tell you what it was. No, it was. I was chatting with Joe some months ago about you're a Yorkshire distillery, an English distillery, and I think there was some frustration that constantly being compared to Scotch whiskey and Scottish distilleries, and I just wanted to ask you a little bit about that, and how do you differentiate yourself from Scotch whiskey, and not that you want to kind of distance yourself from them, because obviously
Sure.
Scotch style whiskey is made all over the world, and there's no shame in that at all. But you are staunchly Yorkshire and very proud of the fact that it's made in Yorkshire from Yorkshire ingredients.
Yes, absolutely. So we knew we didn't want to sort of be within that kind of bracket, if you like, of Scotch whiskey. One of the main reasons for that is that we're not in Scotland. We make whiskey in England, and because of that, that does give you some kind of almost like a leniency, I guess, within reason, because you're not being tied to the Scotch whiskey way of doing things. So one of the sort of differences mainly really is we have the two sites that we actually make our whiskey on, and so that's probably one of the biggest differences between us and a lot of those Scottish distilleries. So like I said, the World Top Brewery, that's where our farm is. Actually, what happens up there is all our wash is actually made up at the farm there. So we get we get 10,000 litres of wash actually delivered to us twice a week, which is really quite nice. Because of the site here, it's quite a small site at the moment. So having the ability to already have all of those really fantastic, the space up there just means that, we can have that made up there and brought to us. So that's one of the main reasons why we kind of are happy, we're in England. Yeah.
Good. And in terms, I know Joe, and I know you guys are very keen to play around with things and do new bottlings here and there. Countless bottlings over the last couple of years, and we've only really been bottling for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
What can we expect in the next 12 months or so? Is there lots of exciting things going on?
There's always lots of exciting things going on here. We've got lots in the pipeline, so we've got lots of things planned. If you're familiar with us, you'll notice that we kind of, on a lot of our bottlings, we do batches. So like this one is the IPA finished batch number 1. So that is always an indication of a potential second batch of that. So as we get older and the whiskey that we've got in our warehouse matures, there's always the possibility of an extra, another batch of that, So we've this one, our first batch of this one, there may be another one coming out soon, whether that'll be next month, middle of the next year kind of thing. It's all very, you'll have to sign up to our newsletter to find out, Eddie. I think that's probably the best thing to say, to be honest. Get onto the website and sign up.
I think you'll find I'm signed up at least once.
Only at least once, yeah. I mean, to be honest, that's the best thing to do, whereas with regards to releases, we've got lots that we want to do. It's just whether, everything's tasting really good, because at the end of the day, we don't want to release something that isn't tasting how we would want it to taste,
I mean, you guys are quite a social distillery, when situations allow. You have a visitor centre and a cafe and a shop and all that kind of stuff, so people can come and visit when obviously pandemic allowing. They can come and visit and have a tour around the distillery, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we do a really fantastic tour. So we were actually in a really lovely area as well. So actually from the distillery on a really lovely day, you can see the sea. You can actually see Filey Bay, which is where we got the name for our whiskey, you know. Everything happens within the stretch of Filey Bay, which is really lovely. And like I say, you can come round and we'll take you and take you around our lovely stills here, which is always a really fantastic. It's a fantastic day, you know, especially
Mm,
learning the process. And we love, you know, we love welcoming people here, especially when we're allowed to.
mm. Yes, yes.
But yeah.
Okay, well, um, just taking your Spirit of Yorkshire cap off for the second.
Mhm.
I know you were at a whiskey show in London earlier in the year, and I know
Mhm.
you know you're kind of getting to know whiskey outside of the confines of of your wonderful distillery. Are there any that have particularly impressed you, either from Scotland or from around the world?
Do you know what? The latest one that I tried that I really really liked was the so Bimba Do have done like, is it a Naran? I can't say this. Please forgive me. Naranja
Right.
cask.
Yeah.
That absolutely was my absolute favorite. I think that is just really really good, and that is probably the one that has stuck out the most for me this past uh,
Right. Okay.
year or so for sure.
Yeah. That's a fellow English distillery
It is. Yeah,
in,
it is. Yeah.
in London, who
Not
will
that I have
also.
anything against. Go on, sorry.
No, I was just going to say that they're also in the festival in the box pack, but not the Naranja.
Ah, yeah, but that's a good one. That's the one that stuck out the most for me. I think it's got everything I like. You know, it's fruity and just yeah,
Mhm, mhm.
different.
Right. And what about other tipples? You know, outside of whiskey? What do you drink? What do you like?
I'm a beer. I like a beer. I am
Yes.
definitely, you know, an IPA or just a nice cold pint is what I love. You know, other than that, non-alcoholic, I would have to be coffee. So I'm a bit of a coffee buff as well. So I actually started here in the coffee shop. So yeah, drinks in general, Eddie. Drinks in general, I think is
Anything?
probably
Yeah,
the best way to
yeah.
describe me.
Anything liquid.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Okay, well, listen, Amy, it's been really lovely to talk to you and really
Yeah, you
appreciate
too.
your time. And thanks so much for the Filey Bay IPA finish. I hope everyone at home has enjoyed it and has enjoyed our little chit chat. But for now, I shall wish you all the best and everyone at the distillery. To
Thank
Slanjavar,
you. Yep,
we'll say, even though we're in England, we're allowed
absolutely.
to. And additionally, a Merry Christmas to you and Happy New Year. And
Thank you. Yeah,
look forward to seeing you in person in the new year.
absolutely. Same to you, Eddie. Have a lovely Christmas. Thank you for letting me on, and Merry Christmas.
Take care. Thank
You
you.
too.